أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. My names are Jimoh Abd'rosheed Olatunji, the Chief Imam and General Overseer of Pious Achievers International. Inshallah, I want to look into the nullifiers of fasting. What are those things that make our fasting invalid in the sight of Allah? When we talk of these nullifiers, they are into two sections. Inshallah, let's look at the first section. The first one I'm going to mention under this first section is intentional eating or drinking. Intentional eating or drinking. That is when someone intentionally drinks or eats in Ramadan, you have invalidated your fasting, and it's a great sin in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another one is intentional ejaculation of semen out of the body. That is by the men, when you force out the semen from the body, whether by caressing your wife or by kissing or otherwise. So by doing this, you have invalidated your fasting, and it's a great sin in the sight of Allah. Another one is intentional vomiting. You know, some people they like to put their fingers into their mouth. If you do this by forcing out vomit, so it means you have intentionally broken your fast, and it's a great sin in the sight of Allah. So all this I've mentioned, whosoever engage himself or herself in any of it has committed a great sin in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another thing that invalidates fasting, that will, in one way or the other, mention it before, is the menstruation or the post-childbirth bleeding. So whenever any woman sees her menses in Ramadan, automatically the fasting has been invalidated. But there is no sin on her. Likewise, the woman that just give birth in Ramadan suddenly, there is no sin on her too. But what I'm trying to say is that the fasting has been invalidated naturally. So both of them have to leave fasting for that period and then make up for it after Ramadan. Then the other section that invalidate our fasting is when someone intentionally has sexual intercourse with his or her legal partner. This is even a very great sin in the sight of Allah. That is during the day of Ramadan. When you have sexual intercourse with your legal wife or your legal husband in the day of Ramadan, this is not allowed. It's haram. It's forbidden. But you can do that in the night of Ramadan. But for you to do it, to have the sexual intercourse in the day of Ramadan, is a great sin that you even pay for it. And the punishment or the penalty for this is that you fast 6 fasting instead of that one. I mean, for that one that you have missed by having sexual intercourse, or you have broken by sexual intercourse, you will now make up for it by fasting 60 fasting. You can see the big sin on this. But if you cannot do this, whether because of the hardship, you can feed 60 people. at dawn and at sunset. So in place of the 60 fasting. So we need to be very careful when we start Ramadan. We need to try to follow the rules of Allah. You can even see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows mercy on us by giving us some permissions, that whether because of our illness or old age or some other natural things that happen to us. So we have to be very careful so that our fasting will be valid in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now let's quickly look at the action that don't nullify our fasting, because you will see some people, whether it's because of their lack of knowledge, they will say this spoil fasting, that spoil fasting. So which they don't in some cases. Now let's quickly look at these actions that don't nullify the fasting. The first one is taking a bath. During fasting in Ramadan, we can take our baths by using soap, sponge and water. Even if we feel it, we can, because of the heat, we can pour water on our body. It doesn't spoil our fasting. Even some scholars made us understand that even if you are thirsty, you feel taste. You feel tasty, you can pour water on your body so that to cool that, to calm that taste. So it doesn't spoil our fasting. It has nothing to do with the nullifying of the fasting. Then another one is performing ablution. We all know that in Ramadan we pray our salah, we observe our salah, and without ablution we cannot perform salah. So we should know that performing ablution cannot invalidate our fasting, but care should be taken when it comes to taking ablution in Ramadan, most especially when we are putting water in our mouth or inhaling water in our nose. We should not overdo this so that it will not enter into our throat. Then another thing that doesn't nullify our fasting in Ramadan is when we delay the ritual baths, janaba. For instance, a legal husband and wife that has sexual intercourse in the night of Ramadan, and they now eat their sahur, their food at dawn. Whether they now later forgetfully sleep off, they now meet themselves at whether 7 o'clock a.m. in the morning without taking bath. There's nothing wrong with their fasting. What they should just do is to go and take the bath and continue their fasting. In a nutshell, delaying the ritual bath janaba doesn't invalidate our fasting. Another one is eating, drinking, and having intercourse with one's wife from night till dawn. I've mentioned that in the night we can have sexual intercourse with our wife in the night of Ramadan. Immediately after the sunset, after the breaking of the fast at sunset, we can come near to our spouse and have sexual intercourse. We can drink, eat till the dawn. But after the dawn, we shouldn't do that. This will automatically invalidate our fasting. Another thing that doesn't invalidate our fasting is a siwak. Siwak is chewing stick. Or we even say the use of toothbrush and toothpaste. It doesn't invalidate our salah, provided the water or the paste doesn't enter into our throat. We have to be very careful. If we want to wash our teeth in the day of Ramadan, we can do that if we are able to manage that, so that we know the taste or the water will not enter into our throats. Then another thing that doesn't invalidate our fasting is corn. Usually applying the corn. The Bible will say tiro. That's the black thing that they lay on the eyes. So it doesn't invalidate our fasting. Then another one is tasting of food with our tongue. That is, whether a woman now that is cooking in the kitchen during the day in Ramadan, she can just use a finger and use it to touch the food she is cooking, and now use it to touch the tongue, whether salt is okay or not. But she must not swallow this. She must not swallow this, because by doing this, she will spoil our fasting. So after tasting the food with tongue, she must pour everything out and use water to rinse her mouth very well. Another one that doesn't invalidate our fasting is taking injection. Injection that we take to elevate the degree of our temperature, for instance, or the one that we take for BP. All these don't spoil our fast. I mean the injection. But the injection we take as a food supplement is not allowed. You cannot take that. But the one you use to treat is welcome. It doesn't spoil our fasting. Then another one is taking suppository. Whether like the medicine the female inserts in their private parts, they can do that during the day of Ramadan. It doesn't spoil their fast. Then another thing is breathing of scent or perfume. All these don't spoil our fasting. You know, some people say, when you perceive a smell or your perfume, it will spoil. No, it doesn't spoil. Then another one is coughing. Coughing is drawing bad blood out of the body. Provided you can bear the hardship, it doesn't spoil our fasting. Another one is accidental consumption. Whether, for instance, someone is walking on the road and a dust just enters into his or her mouth or nose accidentally, it doesn't spoil our fasting. We continue our fasting. Another one is nocturnal emission. That is when someone is asleep, when someone sleeps and gets wet. So this does not spoil your fasting. As a man, when you sleep and you now see that you are wet, so that is the sperm or the semen comes out from you when you are asleep. This does not spoil your fasting. So what you just do is that you get up, you go and take your bath, janaba. So that is all. It doesn't spoil your fasting. Another one is unintentional vomiting. When someone unintentionally vomits, you know, I told us that intentional vomiting invalidates our fasting, but unintentional one, you know, whether for instance someone is sick, even sometimes you may not sick, you just vomit unintentionally. So this doesn't invalidate your fasting. We pray unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to guide us right. Let's see what they have for us up there. continuation of the rulings about fasting, we want to look at the general recommendations. So that is those things that the Prophet ﷺ recommends to us, that when we do them during Ramadan, we are going to have Allah's reward, inshallah. The first one is taking a light sahur. You know, according to the Prophet ﷺ, he told us that tasaharu fa inna fi su'uri baraka. He said, try to take the sahur, that is the food that we take at dawn during Ramadan or during fasting. He said, try to take the food because there is baraka, blessing in this food. So for us to have the blessing, the baraka of taking the food, or the blessing in the food, we should try to take the food. We eat it. Some may say if they eat, they will not feel okay, they will feel heavy, and they will not get themselves. But it's advisable for us, even if we cannot take heavy food, even if it is just taking tea or taking a fruit, we'll have the blessing, inshallah. Another one is asking to iftar immediately after sunset. That's another sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu. He told us that we should try to be breaking our fast at sunset, when it is exactly time to break the fasting at sunset. We should not delay. Some people, they will say, let me just rest a bit. When it is after Isha or after 8 o'clock, I'll break my fasting. It is not good. Even health-wise, the medical doctors, the medical scientists, they made us understand that if you delay your breaking of the fast, it can even cause a great harm to your body. It can affect you. It can even make someone to collapse sometimes. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ advises us to be breaking fast immediately after the sunset. We should not delay. Then another one is by breaking our fast with dates. Dates, the fruits, we know the dates. So that is very good. There is barakah in it. But if we don't see that, we can use water to break. Then after that, we can also use different kinds of fruits to break. Then another one is the supplication at the time of iftar. Like what the Prophet ﷺ taught us, that when we want to break, whenever we want to break, or we finish breaking, we now say, Allahumma laka sumtu wa ala rizqika aftar. Oh Allah, I fasted for you and I break it on your provision. So it's good to be saying this supplication after we break. It's very good. We are going to have the blessing, inshallah. Then another one is by not exaggerating sleeping. We should not sleep for long. You know, anything you do for long, in most cases causes harm. So if you eat too much, it will cause you harm. If you sleep too much, it causes you harm. So the Prophet ﷺ advises us that we should not be eating too much. Even by doing this, eating lightly, drinking lightly, sleeping lightly, will make us do some other things that will make us have reward, like the acts of worship, reading the Quran, observing the nawafil. But if we eat heavily, drink heavily, sleep heavily, we will not be able to engage in all these kinds of worship. Another one is, we have mentioned that we should try to shun the sexual intercourse during the day. We have known the implication that if you intentionally have sexual intercourse with your spouse during the day of Ramadan, you are going to make up for it for that one day. You make up for it. You make up for it by observing 60 fasting. Then another recommendation is that we should try to be spending generously in Ramadan. Normally, on ordinary day or in ordinary months, we are advised, we are ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be spending, because there is barakah, blessing in spending. You spend in the cause of Allah, you spend to your fellow human being, you help people with your money, with your wealth. So by doing this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be giving you more wealth, will be blessing you more and more. That is an ordinary day. Now, when it comes to Ramadan, we should now put more effort on generosity by spending, giving charity, sadaqah, sarah. Feed those that are poor. If we have, let's be feeding people. It is because of those that don't have that we have given those that have. Even the Prophet ﷺ, they inform us that the Prophet ﷺ is the most generous. When Ramadan arrives, he is the most generous. So let's emulate him so that we can have more reward in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the most rewardable act of worship in Ramadan is reciting of Quran. It's very good. Let's be reading our Quran always in Ramadan, throughout Ramadan. Every second we should be reading our Quran. And some people will say, that I don't know how to read Quran, what should I do? Please, this Quran learning is very easy. You can even learn Quran within a week if you are committed. So in a nutshell, reading Quran attracts huge reward in the sight of Allah during Ramadan. Then we should also guard our Taraweeh. Our Taraweeh, that is we say Asham. So this Taraweeh, let's be observing it. Though if you don't observe it, it doesn't mean that the fasting of that particular day is invalid. But we need to observe it so that we can have each reward in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we should try to be observing this nawafil, this Taraweeh in congregation. Then in Ramadan, we should try to increase our acts of worship, because Ramadan is full of blessing, is full of Rahman, Allah's mercies. So we should try to increase our ibadat. We perform our nawafil in the day, we perform in the night, we recite our Quran in the day, we recite in the night, we draw our tasbih, our azkars, our remembrances. So in every second of the month of Ramadan, we should make sure we engage in all this kind of worship. Then when it comes to the last 10 days of Ramadan, we all know the importance of this day. That it is in these last 10 days that we have the night of majesty, that is the Laylatul Qadr. So we are urged and we are urged by Rasulullah Sallallahu to be engaging ourselves in all kinds of worship. Even we should try to seclude ourselves by going for itikaf in the mosque. So all these are the recommendations by the Prophet Sallallahu We pray unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us understand this guidance and make use of it in our real life, so that we can be among of the pious that Allah will admit into Al-Jannah. Wala awla wala quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyil azim. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.